Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the People Progressing podcast. And I'm really excited to have Brian Doherty today, who is actually the husband of one of my ex-students. And I'm just really excited to talk to Brian today. He's a Navy SEAL and is an entrepreneur and all these different things that he's taken risks at. And we're really going to learn a lot today on mindset and what kind of mindset it takes to do those kind of things. And Brian, we usually just start out our show by having you tell us like where you grew up, what you did as a kid, what you like to do, sports you played maybe, and what kind of led to where you are. So why don't you go ahead and do that first and we'll get going here.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
I can't wait.
It's an honor that anyone is semi-interested in my story, but nonetheless, thank you. So I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I'm the youngest of two older brothers, pretty much lived here my entire life with the exception of my stint in the Navy. I tried every sport under the sun, and I would never consider myself a very athletic individual by any means, but I was good enough to at least participate successfully in sports, swimming, basketball, a little bit of football, a little bit of baseball, and nothing really had interested me until I discovered lacrosse. And that was the sport that, like, for some reason, I don't know if you could tell I'm tall and skinny, but that was a sport that a tall and skinny individual like myself could excel at. You know, football, you need to have a lot more mass.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't interested in putting on the mass. Baseball just didn't click with me. Swimming was okay, but just was never, nothing clicked with me until I discovered lacrosse. And once I discovered lacrosse, that was the sport for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I played it all the time. Played lacrosse in junior high, played lacrosse in high school at Smoky Hill High School in Aurora, Colorado. And then I went to college at CSU. I didn't play any sports up at CSU, unfortunately. I tried a little bit of lacrosse. I just didn't have the time for it. I found out other interests, explored a little bit. Tried rugby out a little bit. I again didn't really have much interest in that. I had other sports that or other activities I wanted to pursue and other interests I wanted to look into. Studied finance and graduated college, got a degree in real estate, and then I call it my quarter life crisis. At age 29, I decided to join the Navy and become a SEAL. And I did that for 8 years, left in 2018, joined the reserves. And that's really kind of where I'm at today. And in between that process, started my own watch company called Declan James Watch Co.
That's pretty amazing. It's an amazing story because I don't know, you had to be, when you decided to become a Navy SEAL, what was that process like when you walked into the recruiter and said, "Hey, I'm a 29-year-old and I want to be a Navy SEAL"? I mean, what was the response by the recruiter just when you came in there?
Sure. Well, I'll be honest with you. It was a process. It was a lengthy process. It took me quite a few years to get there. When I was, and I'll back up a little bit to tell you how I got there. When I was in college, I had a very difficult time adjusting to college. And I was staying up late at night and then sleeping during the day. And I just was not excelling, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to my mother, and she says to me, "Well, you need to start exercising. You need to start exhausting your brain so come nighttime you fall asleep." So that's what I did. I started to exercise. I exercised quite a bit, actually, and kind of became obsessed about it. And through that, I started looking up workouts, this, that, and the other type of workouts. And I came across a Navy SEAL workout, and I had no idea who the Navy SEALs were really at this point in time, but I was intrigued by it. So I started looking into it, and I was like, oh, this seems really cool. So I started doing all these Navy SEAL workouts, these endurance type workouts. And eventually I became obsessed, like super obsessed. That's all I cared about. I graduated college and I had to get my eyesight fixed before I could join the reserves, or I'm sorry, before I could join active duty. And I got my eyesight fixed. And then at 26, I said, okay, I need to do this. So I went to the recruiter's office. I said, "Hey, I want to be a Navy SEAL." And as you can imagine, they went through the whole process of me wanting to be Navy SEAL, fitness test, psychological test, this, that, and the other, kind of what you would expect. And getting ready to ship out, I think in like 2 weeks. And I got cold feet and I was like, no, not going to do this. Sorry. And I was able to back out of my contract. And when I did that, it was basically the worst decision of my life at that point in time. I had a lot of emotions going on. It was the first time really I'd been away from home, with the exception of college, but I went to CSU. My parents lived in Denver, an hour and a half away at best, at most.
Yeah.
And and it's not uncommon for young kids actually, to kind of get this separation anxiety. And what you find up happening, which is I started going down this route too, is they meet a young woman and they think, everyone falls in love. They have this lust and they're like, oh shoot, I'm getting ready to ship out. They either don't ship out, which was in my case. I had met a young lady. I felt trapped. I fell into that trap of me leaving, anxiety. I was in love or was lost at the time. You fall in that trap, or you fall in the trap if you get married. So you get a lot of these young military personnel who get married and ultimately get divorced because of these emotions they've got going on and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So at age 26, I had the contract. I had met this young lady who I thought I was in love with, all that stuff, backed out of the contract. And like I said, that was the biggest, one of the worst decisions I made in my life at that point in time, because basically from 26 to when I had enough courage to go in at 29, I had thought about it every single day of my entire life. Everything I did was like centered around being a Navy SEAL, whether it was running faster, what was it, staying up later, whether it was it was just all centric about being a Navy SEAL. So between age 26 and 29, I was working commercial real estate, doing apartment acquisitions and dispositions, because I had gotten a degree in finance and that kind of suited that degree. And I had worked for an Army Ranger and a former Army Ranger, and the economy had tanked, I think in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And everyone obviously retreated, dug in, and started, building up their defenses. And we weren't doing anything. We weren't selling apartments. We weren't buying apartments. And so it was super, super boring. And I had gotten to the point where I wouldn't say I was depressed by any means. I don't think I'm an individual who gets depressed, but I was definitely not motivated, not happy, didn't really care about climbing the corporate ladder, didn't even care about going to grad school, didn't care about much of anything, to be honest with you. And it was kind of a really bleak time for me personally, because I had stopped growing and I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, which was be a Navy SEAL. And I lost a lot of motivation. And my boss at the time was like, he said, hey, Brian, listen, you've got to do this at 29 or you're going to regret this for the rest of your life. So the economy tanked in 2007, 2008, and I held on till 2009, 2010, doing nothing, just kind of living this miserable existence, failing to launch, failing to make something of myself. And so finally I was like, all right, I went back into the office. I said, hey, I want to do this again. And they kind of chuckled. They're like, oh, okay. But I signed the contract, had to go through the whole process all over again, take a fitness test. And within 6 months of me signing on the dotted line, I shipped out in 2010 to Navy basic boot camp. And then from there, it was a blink of, everything happened so quick as a blink of the eye.
So were you the oldest guy in your Navy boot camp?
I was not the oldest individual, but I was definitely one of the oldest individuals. And it's funny that you asked me that, because for some reason, I was talking to someone about this the other day. For some reason, I had a very difficult time being as old as I was amongst guys 18, 19, 20, 22, 23. And I thought because I was older, I had to be stronger, faster, and better. And that was not the case. And I put all this undue pressure on myself to perform, almost to the point where it was detrimental to my success. And that made boot camp for me, that made buds for me very, very, very difficult, to the point where people call me old man. And I was so insecure about it, like it would upset me. But looking back, I'm like, that's not really a big deal, to be honest with you, right? But I had put all this undue pressure on myself. I was insecure about being an older individual there, that it made things very difficult for me. Oftentimes, I was being yelled at by someone who's 26 years old, 25 years old, and in my mind, I'm like, who the hell are you yelling at, buddy? What have you, like, for a minute, I was like, what have you done in this world that makes you so great? And I'm like, oh wait, you've actually gone to war. You're a Navy SEAL. You want to be, I want to be what you are.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the first lessons I learned in the military. And to this day, it's one of my most valuable lessons I've learned is it doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, how old you are, you have something to offer me. If I haven't walked, I haven't walked a day in your shoes. So you obviously have something to offer me. And as soon as I realized that, the whole world opened up to me, and I was so much more successful going through training, and so people liked me so much more, and just things were better. I was happier. I was running faster. I was stronger. I was doing all this great stuff because I'd let go of this ego and this baggage I was carrying with me.
Wow, that's really cool. Now I want to go back to 20 when you were 26 and you signed up and then you backed out.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a comment. You said it's probably the biggest mistake of my life.
Right.
Or at the time you thought it was, because I'll challenge that and say it probably was the best decision of your life. Because my thing is this, if you would have gone in at that time, you might not have been quite as mature, quite as ready to do that. And it took a couple more years for you to kind of get that urge again or whatever that pushed you over the top. And, you said something, the Army Ranger you were working with told you, if you don't do this, you're going to have regret for the rest of your life.
Right.
And I have a saying that says fear regret.
Yep.
And I never want people to have regrets in their life. I realize it's going to happen, but you had some regret for 3 years. And what most people don't do, Brian, is when they have that regret, you said you thought about it every day from 26 to 29. You basically thought about that every day, that decision, and you had regret every day.
Yeah.
You acted on it and you overcame that regret and you beat it.
Yeah.
What I want people to understand here is a lot of times people just keep carrying that regret. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still overcome it and still make decisions to overcome that regret. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely 100%. There's a lot of things that happened to get me to where I am today and to help me get the mindset where I'm at, but it's never too late, right? It's never too late. It's never too late to start.
Right.
I'll just put it that way. It's never too late to start. And obviously if you're 50 years old, joining the Navy SEALs or something that has age limits on it, that might be a tough pill to swallow, but that doesn't mean that whatever it is that drew you to that lifestyle or whatever it was, that you can't find a good compromise to fulfill that thing inside you, whether it's doing endurance races or the Tough Mudders, or even get involved with military organizations and providing support, or working for a DoD contractor that gives the technology to these big military units, whatever it is. I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Never too late to start and to find a good compromise.
Right. And you're completely proof of that. And I love that story for people to understand. And let's go into BUDS. When you first went into Navy SEAL training, that's BUDS, correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
And you talked a little bit about your mindset of being the old guy and who's this guy telling me this and all that. That's one kind of mindset that you kind of had to get over. The other kind of mindset that you had to get over is just the daily grind of it. So,
yes.
What was that feeling like that very first day when you stepped out there and it's all of a sudden it's real? I'm in BUDS. What was your mindset at that point?
I'll never forget that day. Obviously we wake up early in the morning and we had a timed run, a 4-mile timed run. I think we did our timed run, something at 5 a.m. And so we show up early. We had to be there at 4:30. We had to get in formation. We got to make sure the class was all squared away. and we're on the beach waiting for the instructors. And when you're waiting for the instructors, when you're waiting for an evolution to start, for some people, not for all, but the general feeling in the atmosphere is everyone's nervous. This is the first day. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? We've read about it, we've seen about it, but we've never experienced it. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of nervousness in the air for sure. And I remember the instructor showed up, and this particular individual, he runs up to the instructors and he says, "I'm not going to run." And you hear the instructor just yell. He's like, "Oh, you don't tell me," just going off. And we're like, "You don't tell me what you're going to do. I tell you what you're going to do." And that level of nervousness that everyone had, you know, everyone just kind of puckers up and was like, "Oh God, this guy's going to get it." The guy who said he's not going to run, what he meant to say is, I'm quitting. I don't want to do this. Right. And that's a different conversation, but he just said it differently, and the instructor lays into him. And so that just set the tone. And then we line up on the starting line, and the instructor says, "Go." We do our 4-mile timed run, and that's it. Right. Like, from that moment, it's a daily grind. There's no time to be nervous. There's no time to, I mean, you do have downtime for sure, but like that whole day, finish the time run, passed it. Then they did surf torture for a little bit, and I think we did maybe, I don't know how long it was, but guys are getting hypothermia in the surf zone, right? When you lie in the surf and the water goes over you, for your listeners that don't know, and you're there for a prescribed amount of time, and then guys are getting hypothermia. And after that, we went to PT. So we went from run to surf torture to group fitness. And I remember at group fitness, like, you're exhausted at this time. You're like, okay, cool. Like, I made it through 2 evolutions. That's what they say, is just make it through the next evolution. Just make it through the next evolution. Made it through 2 evolutions. Felt like I was doing pretty good. We do group PT, and our instructor comes out, and they start doing jumping jacks. And I'm thinking, great, we're going to warm up, right? We're doing like 20 jumping jacks. We're going to warm up. Then we're doing 100 jumping jacks. I'm like, okay, we're going to do 100 jumping jacks just for warm up. And then we must have done, I couldn't tell you, but we did jumping jacks for an hour straight. Just straight up jumping jacks, nothing else. And it got to the point where, like, you're not even, you can't even lift your arms. You're dragging your ankles together to go through the motions an hour straight. And I was like, and that was the first time I was like, okay, this is not what I thought this was going to be like. There's going to be a lot of games involved. And after that, we went to breakfast, made it through breakfast, and then a lot of it's just orientation, and being wet and sandy. But that first day it's a kick in the groin for sure, mentally, physically, and it was a good first day. But it was God, I haven't thought about the first day of buds for a long time, until you asked me. But yeah, I mean, it's you're nervous in the air. And I think to a certain extent, you're always, at least I was for a while, always nervous in buds, because, I put that undue pressure on myself to perform, but also you don't want to fail. If you really want to be there, you don't want to fail. And everyone has their own issues in buds, whether they're dealing with a busted knee, they're not a good runner, they're not a good swimmer, it's the first time they've been away from home. Everyone's dealing with their own stuff, right? For me, my thing was me being older and putting undue pressure on myself. That was what I was dealing with. So there was always an element of me being nervous and not wanting to fail and having to outperform other people.
So the mental the mental toughness that you had to have, because I'm sure there's days when however they woke you up in the morning, where you were sitting there going, mm-hmm. I don't know if I can do this again.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of only human.
Right.
What made you, I've had Philip Kuntz on the People Progressing podcast. He was a Navy mm-hmm. SEAL as well. And he told me he came up with a thing where he just had 2 scenarios. 1, he was going to make it and be a Navy SEAL, or 2, he was going to die doing it, trying it, and meet Jesus. And that's what he said got him through. What was the thing that got you through? What was the thing that made you keep going?
I never doubted myself. I didn't want to quit, right? So if, to me, not wanting to quit, like I wasn't going to quit. That wasn't what was
Not
going
an
to keep
option.
me from becoming a Navy SEAL. It just wasn't a thought for me.
Yeah.
Sure, I had moments where I was down. I had to give myself positive, I talk positively to myself. It just wasn't. I don't ever recall like me being like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm not sure this is right for me. I don't ever remember having those conversations with myself. My scenario for me was getting injured. I didn't want to get injured. And so, you know, I was waking up early in the morning and stretching. We had to be up
Oh,
at 4:30. I was waking up at 4 to stretch to make sure that my body was in good shape. I was walking every weekend to a massage therapist to get a massage to like work out the kinks and to stretch my muscles. Like that was the thing for me. I was like, if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail. If I'm not gonna make this, I'm gonna die. I guess die trying.
yeah.
It's kind of like it, but I didn't think of it that dramatically
Yeah.
by any
Yeah.
means. But yeah, that's what it was for me. Is like if I'm gonna break a bone, I'm gonna break an ankle, and that's the only way you're gonna get me out of here.
That's awesome mindset. And how many guys started and how many guys finished in your class?
Ooh, I think so. You have NDoc, and NDoc was roughly a month to 2 months before actual buds, I think, and they teach you how to run in the sand. They teach you how to swim. They basically it's NDoc, right? This is what it's like to run on the sand. This is what expected of you when we say this. This is what's expected of you when we ask you to clean your room. This is what's expected of you, basically for the next 6 months of buds. I think we had roughly like 250 people in Indoc, and then they say classing up for buds. I think we got down to maybe 175, if I'm guessing here. And then post Hell Week, those who made it through Hell Week, we had 50 people make it through Hell Week, and then we had about 10 people who made it through Hell Week from a previous class and classed into our class.
And then how many graduated to be a SEAL? Was that 60, you said?
Yeah,
Was it
roughly
60?
60. I mean, that's a plus or minus, but
That's
that was
amazing.
that's kind of the number. Yeah.
What an elite group. And what I want people to get kind of from that story of your life is just overcoming one, regret, overcoming anxiety and fear,
Yeah.
overcoming self-doubt, because I'm sure there was self-doubt in that process.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that really struck me, what you just said, was your preparation and how much your preparation helped you overcome all of those other things we just mentioned.
Yeah.
Because you would get up at 4. So you would get up a half hour earlier and stretch and make sure your body was good. On the weekends, you got your massage, so your body was good. So preparation helped you overcome the anxiety, the fear, the self-doubt, and all those things. And I think that's important for people to understand too, is when we all have fear. I tell people fear is a natural emotion. It's just something that's going to be there, but you can outwork it. You can out prepare it to overcome it. And then Tara I had on last week, she said something was really profound. She said, passion overcomes fear. So, those are all things that can help us overcome fear, but you just gave a great example of preparation and how that overcomes fear. So I thought that was a great example. So now you graduate, you become a Navy SEAL. Then what happened to you? What did you get some deployments or what
Yeah.
happened from there?
So I graduated buds, and then we go into SQT, which is another 6 months, which stands for SEAL Qualification Training. And that is a mini version of the training that you would get at a SEAL team during a workup for deployments. And so did that for 6 months and learned more about what it's like to be a Navy SEAL. Life was better. You were a little bit more respected. You still didn't know anything. You still had this instructor student relationship, but things were better. Things were a little bit better. They stopped yelling at us so much. They actually taught us some things. Yeah, it was kind of like we didn't arrive, but we definitely saw the light at the end of the tunnel. So did that for 6 months, graduated. Then they sent me to Arabic school to learn Arabic
Oh,
for, I think,
wow.
2 to 3 months, which I tried to tell them was a waste of their money. But they didn't listen to me. They didn't have any of that. I'm just not an individual to learn other languages. I never was. I always struggled taking Spanish. And anyways, did that for, I think, for a couple months, learned Arabic for a couple months. And then I got assigned to a SEAL team. And that was a good time in my life. It was a time where I was able to look back. I was able to say I put in the hard work. I was able to say I finally arrived. Like I felt like I was on top of the world. I had accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish up until that point. I put the work in. I had good friends. I was accepted into platoon life. That's another thing. When you get accepted in, when you get assigned to a team, then you got to be accepted, right? Like that's, you want to be accepted. You want to be called one of the brothers, and you want to live that brotherhood lifestyle. And I feel that I was able to successfully do that. And we did a 6-month workup where you dive, you do your scuba diving, you do your land warfare, you do your assault trainings, skydiving, and there might be a little bit of other training there that I'm missing. And then all that's done, and then we deployed. I deployed to Afghanistan, and that was another great time in my life, actually, to be honest with you. And it's interesting because people are like, you wanted to go to war? I was like, well, yeah, of course. It's like playing baseball and training for the World Series, but actually knowing that you'll never go is like, why would you train? Like, whatever you do, you train for the pinnacle of that sport. And whether it's the Super Bowl or the World Series or whatever it may be, of course. And so, yeah, it was a really good time.
So what can you tell? I don't know if you can tell or not, but can you tell of any stories that happened over there? Some of the things that you guys did, or is that classified?
Yeah, I could tell some stuff. When I had joined, it was 2010. So the war was just about over, right? But we deployed and we got into some kinetic gunfights, which was fun, right? Because that's what we trained for. I remember the first gunfight that I got in, we were working with the Afghani special forces, and it was by, with, and through. So we were trying to push them to be successful soldiers, trying to tell them how to operate and teach them all the good stuff that we knew. And we had gotten up early in the morning. We would go out, at one, dark basically. So we would go out like at 1 a.m. We were driving to our location where we wanted to be, I think, for like 2 or 3 hours. There's a lot of stops involved, a lot of checking for IEDs, and checking in with higher ups HQ. When we finally got to the place where we wanted to be just before sunrise, we took over this particular compound and we fortified ourselves. We set up, right? And one of the kind of interesting thing is, we knew there were bad guys over in that area, and we were just going out on a presence patrol. We wanted the area to know that, hey, this is who we are, this is what we do, and we're here. Don't mess around with us. So oftentimes what we would do is we would hoist an American flag over at the compound that we took over, and hoping that like people would see it like, oh, they're the Americans, let's go fight them. And like, well, it's gonna be a bad day for you guys. It's gonna be a bad day for you guys. And for your listeners, remember, like, this is what we trained for. This is what we want. Yeah. It's like going to the World Series and just sitting on the bench. You're like, no, let me get out there. Let me play. And so we hoist up our flag. There's a few, few gunshots here and there, but by and large, like, very disappointing. Not anything that we would ever want to do. It just sit there around there and do nothing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's time for us to leave. So the Afghani special forces, they leave first. And we're saying, hey, go left. When you leave the compound, go left. And I don't know what happened, but these guys went right.
Oh, no.
And I'm convinced that maybe they were in cahoots with the Taliban or whatever terrorist network was over there at the time, because they led us straight into an ambush.
Oh, no.
Like, we turned left. We went down this, like, everyone knew we shouldn't have gone left, because what had happened is we turned down an alley. And so there's only one way out, and that's going forward. We didn't have enough way to maneuver to back up or any of that stuff. And so we went down this alley, and this was the first gunfight that I had gotten in. And I just remember hearing over the radio, I think it was RPG out, meaning someone was firing an RPG at us. And I remember being like, oh shit, my stomach kind of sank for a minute. And then instantly, as soon as I was done saying that, I was like, oh, it's game time. everything just kicked in. We had trained
So
so much. It's so hard every single day. It was just muscle memory, muscle memory, muscle memory, and that's all we did. And it was no big deal. It was just like I was training, just what we trained for. And we were probably in this alley, this channelized area, for probably 15, 20 minutes. We were getting shot at. God bless America and their technology and the armored vehicles we had and all that. I'm really grateful for the people who've gone before me, because my platoon success, my survival, were lessons learned from the people before us.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, anyway, so we were probably there 15, 20 minutes, and we finally got out of this channelized area. One Afghani had gotten shot, and I mean, they would just do weird stuff, right? Like, this guy got shot, and we're in a convoy, and he's bleeding, and he must have been okay, because the guy's like, the commander's like, well, we're just going to go take him to the hospital. And we're like, well, we can call in a medevac for you. We can call in a helicopter. We can get him in a hospital in like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. He's like, no, we're good. We're just going to take him to the hospital. And we're like, we're just all scratching our heads like, okay. But on the way from the hospital, from when we left the gunfight, between when we left the gunfight and they left for the hospital, they stop at a local market and get bread.
No
we
way.
Literally just got out of a gunfight.
No way.
And these guys like, we need dinner for tonight. We're like, what the heck is going on? But that was my first time I had gotten in a gunfight, and it was exhilarating. It was fun. It was everything that we wanted, right? As training for war is everything you wanted.
And again, the preparation is what got you through that initial, oh crap, situation where you hear that coming, that thing was coming at you and everything. You went, oh crap. And then all of a sudden preparation kicks in, and it overcomes your fear. It overcomes everything. You go into what you do best. And it's just amazing to me. And you were a Navy SEAL, Brian, for what, 8 years? Is that right?
I was active duty for 8 years. Yes.
And tell us what you're doing now with the Navy SEALs.
So now I'm in the reserves. And so it's a different lifestyle. I'm not active duty, obviously. I'm more or less a bench warmer, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm perfectly comfortable with being a bench warmer. They're not deploying me to any kinetic or hot spots around the world. Now that might change if World War III kicks off, but basically, my function as a reserve SEAL is to free up space and time for the active duty guys, so they can go to the hot spots in the world and the kinetic places and do the real dangerous stuff that, it's not that I couldn't do it, but I'm not living that lifestyle 24/7 like those guys are.
Yeah.
I show up for training 1 week in a month, 2 weekends a year. I go out to San Diego for my sustainment training. So I'll get all my sustainment training a year in 2 weeks, right? Active duty SEALs they're living this day in and day out. They're eating it, they're breathing it, they're sleeping it. And so my job is really kind of to free up the mundane stuff for them so they can forward deploy.
Pretty amazing. And I'm going to ask you this question. If you feel comfortable answer it, you can. If not, then that's fine too. But do you think our country's doing enough for our veterans who've come back from war and those kind of things?
I don't know that. Well, I don't think the government is per se, but there are a lot of organizations out there that help veterans. I mean, there's tons of them. There's even tons of Navy SEAL organizations that are solely devoted to Navy SEALs. So I will say, yes, the country at large, the people, the civilians are doing a tremendous amount for veterans. The government, I don't know that it's their place. But when I compare what the civilian sector does versus the government, the government doesn't do much.
And that's, because I look at it and I've taught a lot of kids and coached a lot of kids who went into the military, and some of them are dealing with PTSD and stuff like that now. And I talked to some of them about different treatments and all that kind of stuff. And they're really kind of getting some cutting edge stuff going on now for those people. So it's kind of cool. Now let's transition into you're a SEAL reservist, which is to me blows me away still. What else are you doing right now besides that? So you kind of have two different jobs besides that one. And let's get into that a little bit.
All right. I'll start off with my first passion, which is watches. So about 2018, I started my own company called Declan James Watch Co. Excuse me. And I designed watches, timepieces, and I sell them on my website. And I love watches. I love doing it. And it's
so been cool.
It's been fun. I figured out the manufacturing piece, and I thought honestly manufacturing was going to be the most difficult part. And it turned out in this day and age, in hindsight, I should have known better. It was the easiest thing to do because everything is very accessible these days. It's a global economy. I have access to cheap, inexpensive, cheap manufacturing overseas. And what's turning out to be more challenging than I thought is marketing and branding. And so that's what I've been doing on my spare time, just trying to get that up and running. And then in the meantime, until I can successfully get to a point where I can transition to Declan James Watch Co. full time, I do real estate development during the day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, for a mobile home company. And they own and operate mobile home communities across the country. And I do expansions and development for them. And I feel pretty blessed. I don't say blessed too often, but I feel pretty blessed in the sense that I'm doing two things that I absolutely love. I'm doing real estate development, which is interesting to me, and it plays well with my personality and my skill sets. I tell people all the time, being a Navy SEAL is not necessarily about lifting a lot of weight, running fast, jumping from ungodly altitude and all this stuff. It's really just about solving problems in a timely manner, in an efficient manner. And while doing that, we get to carry a gun. That's to me what being a Navy SEAL is about, is really solving problems, whether it's a battlefield problem, whether it's you're not getting the support you need from another military unit that is supposed to be helping, whatever it is. Like, we're just solving problems to get to a goal, and I'm carrying a gun while doing it. And so I learned that really well in the teams. And that's what, to me, doing real estate development is about, is solving problems. A new day, a new problem.
Yeah.
Literally a new day, a new problem. And that's what's interesting to me about it, is it's a new problem every single day. And I really enjoy solving problems. When someone tells me no, or there's something I encounter, I'm like, well, there's got to be a way to get what we want, or there's got to be a way to get a compromise, which is the next best scenario.
Yeah.
So I feel blessed. I get to take my skill set I learned in the military, and apply that to a job that I like. And then my passion is watches, and I'm doing watches. And
you're still doing your Navy SEAL stuff.
And I'm still doing my Navy SEAL stuff. Yeah, you're right.
So there's three things there. Which is crazy to me that you can find all that, because I know you have a wonderful wife, one of my favorite all-time students, Katie, and you have two kids now and so forth. So how do you balance all that?
It's a challenge. I don't know that I am successfully balancing it, to be honest with you. I'd like to think I am, but I'm doing a lot. It's a challenge, and so there's a lot of give and take. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I try to wake up at 4:30 in the morning every day, and it's my time to meditate a little bit, to have a cup of coffee, just to sit in peace.
Yeah.
Because once my boys wake up, I have two boys. Once they wake up, I love them to death, but they are all over me 24/7. It's on, and it's great. I love it. I'm not complaining, but I think what's helping me out is just taking time for myself.
Yeah.
And kind of sorting my thoughts out, writing notes down, and really just making sure that I'm in the right headspace every day to take on the day.
And I think that's so important. I think that's another lesson for people to learn, is getting up 15 minutes earlier, or 20 minutes earlier, or half hour early, to do that, to have that time to yourself, to get your day started on the right path. I think is more and more I study that and talk to people who do that, the more and more I see people who are kind of more at peace with things, and they can handle the problems that arise during the day, and they can look at problems as opportunities and not as obligations, and those kind of things. And I think that's really important. I think it's a great point that you brought up there. How long are you going to keep doing the reserves?
That's the $1 million question.
Want to keep going?
I've been trying to get out of the military since the day I got in. And although I love the experience, I'll never trade in for all the money in the world. I did 8 years. I was only going to do 6 years, and then I did 8 years, and then I joined the reserves, and I have a total of 12 years in. So ultimately I'll probably retire. I'll probably do 20 years, and yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, I'll be honest. I've been trying to get out since the day I got in, but here I am 12 years later. And it's frustrating. The military is the military. It's like any other government or bureaucratic organization. But there's a part of me that likes it enough to where I'm not going to get out, at least not right now. Despite how, I mean, you talk to Katie, and she's like, "Oh, what's he complaining about right now with the military?" Because it's always something, right?
Yeah.
But I will say this: getting up early in the morning and taking time for myself to meditate and sort my thoughts out, that has helped me out in life so much, so much. And I think it's because I don't know why, to be honest with you, but I will say that when I do get these frustrations or things that used to frustrate me with the military or whatever it was, or these problems that would come up that would completely derail your whole agenda, I'm able to deal with that a lot more, a lot easier. And it doesn't, nothing really bogged me down. Like I said, I enjoy overcoming obstacles. I enjoy all that stuff. Nothing bogged me down, but it was the level of frustration that it would incite inside me that I can deal with a lot better.
Yeah. And I have a saying that most of the things that we get stressed out about or frustrated about usually don't mean a lot a week later.
They don't.
We let it get to us so much, and then a week later we kind of even forget it even happened and so forth. So being able to meditate and get your mind right to start the day helps you kind of understand that and realize that a little bit more. Yeah. I love that concept. And so I have 3 questions for you, and we'll be done.
Sure.
My book is called The 3 Ps, Finding Your Purpose, Perspective, and Passion. So I ask every one of my guests on my show these questions. What is your purpose in life?
My purpose in life are my boys. They didn't choose to be brought in this world. I chose for them to be brought in this world. And my watch company is actually named after my oldest son, Declan James. And I wanted to impart with him the wisdom that I gained in the SEAL teams through entrepreneurship and through running my own business. I knew there was going to be ups and downs in starting a business. Like that's easy. Everyone knows that. Ups and downs in life, right? But I wanted him to see me deal with those ups and downs and how to overcome them. I wanted to be the example for him, not just tell him. I wanted to show him.
Right. Yeah.
And so I started my business for that. And it works out that I like watches and all that good stuff too. But my purpose in life are my boys. They didn't choose, like I said, they didn't choose to be brought into this world. I chose for them to be brought in this world. And your kids are older, and maybe you might think I'm being a little dramatic, and I might change this later on as my kids get older. But I look at other people, I'm like, dang, you can really screw up kids.
No, like, I was a teacher for 30 years. I get it.
Like you can have a good impact on them, and they're resilient for sure. But like, I don't want to I just want to make sure that I give them the best footing in life. I want to give them the keys to success, no matter how they define their success. It doesn't matter. I want to make sure that I give them the keys to success and happiness. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want, is their happiness and them to have the tools to succeed. Again, whatever it is they choose to succeed at.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful, because you became a Navy SEAL and stuff to overcome obstacles and everything else, but really it's about service, right? You're serving our country, and you've been serving our country for a long time now. When you talked a little bit about your real estate stuff, it's just kind of the same thing. You're designing these things for mobile home parks that are going to make life easier for people. And then your Declan James watch company is basically giving people happiness by having a really cool watch and so forth. And then you talk about your boys and how you want to make sure that you're giving them everything possible to be successful in life. So everything that you've done is serving others. And I tell people this all the time. You find your purpose when your purpose is greater than yourself. And that's you to a T. So let's jump over perspective now. And I ask this question next: what's your passion in life?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Obviously my passion is my family. That I hope that goes without saying. I really enjoy solving problems and helping people solve their problems. I really do enjoy that. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. It's just I get excited when people tell me no. I get excited when people ask me for my help. I get excited, when there's an obstacle to overcome. I just enjoy it. And I don't know why that is. And I hope that's not too cheesy for you or your listeners, but
no, because
I enjoy it.
No, it's perfect, because I always say this, and purpose equals passion and passion equals purpose. Mm-hmm. And you just prove that, right? You enjoy helping people solve their problems to make their life better. You join the Navy SEALs to serve people. Your passion and purpose equal each other. They match.
And I'll say this. You remember we talked about when I was 26 and how I was not happy and I was failing to launch and make something of myself. Mm-hmm. And I've always considered myself an average individual at best. I wouldn't say I'm super athletic. You can disagree with me if you wish. I wouldn't say that I'm the smartest guy in the room, the strongest, or any of that stuff. And yet I made it through. I was able to overcome this moment in my life where I wasn't succeeding at anything, insert myself into an organization that requires high performance, high output, and be somewhat successful at it. And I still look back and I'm like, I was just an average guy. I saw the fastest guys quit. I saw the strongest guys quit. I saw all those guys going through training who I looked up to, who I sized myself up to. And I'm like, I was the tall, skinny guy. I'm always gonna be tall and skinny. I looked at the guy to my right. This guy's muscles has muscles.
Yeah. I
looked to the guy to my left, and he's all-American track athlete at whatever college he went to. I was like, geez, if I'm and the funny thing was I thought I was competing against those guys, but in reality I was competing against myself.
Sure.
Right? And I learned that the competition is within yourself. The competition is with that voice that says, I can't, I'm too tired, I want to give up, or whatever it is. That's the true competition.
Right.
Whether I'm running a race against someone or whatever it is. And so I like to help people understand that.
Yes. Gosh,
I like to tell people, I have young kids come and ask me about my advice about joining the SEALs all the time. And it's sometimes they have these excuses or this, that, and the other. And I gotta be honest with them. I'm like, listen, man, if you really want this, it's up to you. It's attainable. It's attainable. All those excuses are that voice inside your head saying, are the voice inside your head, and that's your doubt, right?
Yeah.
You can have this. And I just love when that light bulb goes off. I was an instructor in BUD/S, and that was probably one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life, because I was with all these young men who accomplished their lifelong goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And these are guys are all tatted up. They just look like gnarly dudes. Some of them do, right? And when they make it through Hell Week, they're crying.
Yeah.
To see a grown man cry, because he's overcome with joy about accomplishing his goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being there to witness that is so profoundly rewarding. Yeah. I remember real quick, and I'll
this is beautiful.
Your next question. I remember when we had orientation day on the obstacle course, and this individual had climbed up the cargo net, and I think the cargo net's, I don't know, 50 feet maybe. And I'm on the ground and I'm yelling, doing my thing as an instructor, having fun, making sure people are listening and safe and all that good stuff. And one of the students comes up to me and he says, Instructor Doherty, Seaman, whatever his name was, Seaman Schmuckatelli is stuck on the cargo net and he won't come down. And I'm looking up there and I was like, what? I'm like, are you guys like playing a prank on me? Because you get to play pranks on the instructors when you're in buds, and we get to play them back. And that's kind of part of how the bonding process and the brotherhood starts coming into place. But anyways, I thought they were joking around with me. I thought they were just trying to get me to go up there to bring them down because they want, I don't know. I just thought they were messing around with me. And the guy looks me in the eye. He's like, no, I'm dead serious. He's been up there for like 10 minutes. He's not coming down. I was like, oh, okay. So I climb up there, talk to the guy, finally able to convince him to come down after, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of being on this 50 feet high. He comes down. I thought nothing of it. In my mind at that moment, I was like, this guy's obviously not going to make it through the program if he can't overcome the first hurdle and only hurdle of that day. Mm-hmm. And I thought nothing of it after that. Hell Week graduation, all the students line up. We shake their hand. This kid goes and this kid says, excuse me, Instructor Doherty, do you remember who I am? I said, no, I have no clue who you are. He says, well, I was the guy on top of the cargo net who couldn't get down. And I was like, oh my God, no way. Yes. Like I was so excited. Like I was like, God, you've overcome so much. I mean, mentally that his mind shift from being stuck up there, literally afraid to come down to making it, 2-3 months into buds and passing Hell Week. I shook his hand. And I gave him a hug, and you're not supposed to hug them because they're all sick and they got bacteria and germs all over them from being, in the surf zone and up for a week straight. And I was so excited. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that. And me being me, I walked away and I looked over my shoulder. And I said, "Good luck with good luck with skydiving." But I knew he was going to do it. He was going to do it. And I love that. Yeah.
And I love the light bulb analogy. I have that in my book, actually. One of the greatest things as a coach and a teacher was seeing the light bulb go on.
It's rewarding, right?
Yeah. And again, that goes back to your service heart, right? Serving others to get their light bulbs to go on so they can be better in life and do better things. And you brought up something I wanted to touch on real quick too, about when you got in there and you were comparing yourself to the guy with muscles on muscles and the guy who was the All-American track, and really what comparing, I want people to understand this. I have a saying that says, when you compare, it takes the joy out of life. Yeah. And it bogs you down so much. And it brought up that little guy on your shoulder saying, well, look at that guy. You don't match up and you don't match up. And knock that guy off your shoulder and quit comparing, and just be yourself and set those goals and accomplish those goals and overcome all of that stuff. And what you did there is a beautiful way to say it. And I want people to really understand that. And another thing I want people to understand is this: you as a person in this world can get other people to get their light bulbs on too. And in the business world, I think this is what's missing a lot in the business world, is leaders out there who have that same kind of mindset of trying to get their workers to get their light bulb to turn on. They get so bogged down with the day-to-day noise of everything that they really forget what their leadership is about. Their leadership is to get their people to get their light bulbs to go on. When that happens, their company's going to keep growing and so forth. It's no different in athletics. It's no different in the Navy SEALs. It's no different in business. Any leader can get the light bulb to go on. And you said it. It's so rewarding. Yeah. That's so cool. And last question now, and we're kind of running out of time. I want to be respectful of your time here. I could go on all night. What's your perspective on life? What kind of perspective you have now after doing all this stuff that you've done and seeing all that you've seen and being in war and all that kind of stuff?
I definitely had a mental mind shift for sure. There's no doubt about that. I think life has gotten a lot easier for me, to be honest with you, through this whole process of being miserable in life, to overcoming that and joining an organization and being successful at that, and going to war and having kids. I think life has gotten a lot easier for me in the sense that I know from the bottom of my heart that nothing is really that important. Staying up late to work is not that important. Like, what's important is relationships and love, right? And the people you interact with. Like, that's the only thing that's important to me in my life. But I know from the bottom of my heart that, one, nothing is really that important except for the relationships that you choose to keep, and two, that I am capable of anything I want to do. That's my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
My superpower is the belief that I'm capable to do anything. And getting there is a challenge, obviously, I hope one would expect. I understand I'm going to fail. I failed all the time in the SEAL team.
Love that.
I understand. I had one of my first leader in the SEAL teams, God rest his soul. He said to me, Navy SEALs aren't great because they're Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs are great because we pick ourselves up every single time until we get it right. And if you're to spend time with a platoon in training, you'll see they make mistakes. They make mistakes all the time. You'll see they make bad calls or accidents happen, whatever it is. But you also will see that platoon staying up late, getting up early until they get it right, until they get it right, until they get it right, until they get it right. And you're not going anywhere until you're able to pick yourself back up and get it right. And so when people make mistakes or they fail in evolution or whatever it is, we look at this guy in the eye, and it's basically like, say this particular individual, screwed up on something, on practicing a mission. The entire platoon has to do it all over again because this one individual. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
that is a lot of pressure. But in the teams, it's like, okay, it's no big deal. Let's do it until we all get it right, because we all want to come home at the end of the day, and we all love each other, and we all mean something to someone. So we're all in this together. So that is it's kind of long-winded, but my perspective in life is things aren't that important, except for the company you keep and the relationships you choose to have. And my belief that I absolutely can do anything I set my mind to. It might take me longer than you, but I'm not comparing myself to you anymore. I'm just comparing myself to that voice inside my head that says I can't, or because we all have, I still have my own insecurities in life.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I call my superpowers, my belief in my ability to do something.
Yeah.
I don't care how long it takes me.
Right.
I don't care,
Right. And you earn that. You earn that belief.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to understand too, is you earn that belief by overcoming that fear and going for it and taking a risk and getting outside your comfort zone and all those things that we hear about all the time. Passion equals purpose, purpose equals passion, and your perspective holds it together. And you just prove that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You've changed lives tonight. You got me so fired up. I can't even stand it.
Well, I've got a little bit more time if you have more questions.
One is I want you to tell people how they can get a watch. Let them know how they can get on and get a Declan James watch.
So all my watches, thank you for the opportunity to plug here. All my watches have Swift movement. They're designed by myself. They're tested by myself. They've been tested downrange. They're dress watches. Okay. For the professional, they're dress watches. You can go to my website, DeclanJames.com, www.DeclanJames.com, Google Declan James watches, and it'll go up on my website, and you can get it that way. You can call me if you have any questions about a watch. My number's there. You can email me directly. I love watches. I've had people call me just to bullshit about watches. They've got my number from the website, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Well, you're an amazing guy. And
I appreciate that.
And I just want people to understand that they too can overcome. They don't have to be a Navy SEAL to overcome, but they can overcome obstacles. I tell people the old saying, life's a marathon. I don't think it's a marathon. I think it's a steeplechase. It's a long race with a bunch of hurdles and everything else. And you're a perfect example of how to overcome those hurdles. And, anybody can do that. And I think the superpower that we all have, like you said, the superpower that we all have is the choice to be the way you are, and you said it when you were 26 and you made that choice to back out. Mm-hmm. Then 3 years, you made another choice to get back in, and how that changed your life. Those choices really make a difference in how we go in life. The power that we all have that no one can take away is that power of choice. How are you going to look at things? How are you going to describe things? How are you going to see things? Is life an opportunity or is it an obligation? It's your choice how you deal with it. And you prove that.
I think you're right for anyone. You can look at any successful individual and name one person, with the exception of maybe the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musk. Those are a different realm of people. Those people I'm talking about the average man, the average person, the average woman here, people like you and myself.
Yeah.
Take a successful person, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whoever it is. I guarantee you they have their own insecurities in life.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you they have their own insecurities in life. But I think what's different about those successful people is they've made the choice to overcome those insecurities.
Yeah.
They've made those choices, 100%. And that's what I think, like you said, that's what's great about being human is the choice that we have. I promise you again, we all have our own insecurities. We all have our hang-ups in life, but that doesn't mean that we can't do something.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't be the Michael Jordan or the CEO or the next manager or whatever it is. You just got to make the choice to overcome those insecurities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so awesome. Gosh darn it. Well, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, Brian. This has been awesome, which I thought I really was anticipating something like this anyways, but you even exceeded my expectations. For me, it's all about getting people like your stories out to inspire others. I have a saying too. I think I'm not sure that we can motivate others, but I do think we can inspire others to motivate themselves. And what you did tonight was you inspired a whole group of people who might be in that same situation that you were in at 26, trying to figure out which way do I go? Why did I do that? Why didn't I do that? And all the regret and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden just say, boom, that's gone. I'm making this choice and let's go. And it's okay to make that choice. And you said it earlier, it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail and keep going and keep learning and keep growing and keep progressing. Just a beautiful, beautiful example of that. We're going to meet in person hopefully soon.
Absolutely.
You're an amazing guy, and I want to thank you for coming on.
Well, I'm touched. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be on the show.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm just overwhelmed. So I want to thank everyone for listening tonight to the People Progressing podcast with Brian Doherty, the Navy SEAL, the watchmaker. How many people can say they're a Navy SEAL and a watchmaker? That's pretty cool too. He's not afraid to take a risk. And I'm just so excited that he came on our show tonight. And I'm Joe White, and you can get a hold of me through CoachJoeWhiteConsulting.com. Get on there, get my book, call me, email me. I've been going out doing some speaking. Want me to come talk to your group or anything like that, just let me know. And thanks for listening. Download this, share it with your friends, because this will change their life. So I appreciate you all being with us tonight, and have a great week and keep progressing.